with the horrific assassination of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, who was debating college students in an open outdoor tent at Utah Valley University as part of a new college debating tour. The debate subject turned to how many recent mass shooters had been transgender. Charlie Kirk was then shot in the neck, slouched back with blood pouring out. The footage of the assassination has been widely circulated online, but it is too horrific for it to be broadcast here on a video streaming platform. The students in the surrounding audience screamed in horror. Some got down on the ground while others fled. An assassin was spotted on the rooftop of one of the college buildings, dressed in all black. FBI Director Kash Patel incorrectly posted on X that they had a suspect in custody. He later confirmed the assassin is still at large. It was clearly a professional hit with only one shot needed to kill Charlie Kirk, who was also wearing a bulletproof jacket. The motive, of course, at this stage is unknown. President Donald Trump confirmed that Charlie Kirk had died in a post on Truth Social. He was only 31 years old. He had 2 young children with his wife, Erica. The president ordered flags on government buildings, including the White House, to be flown at half-mast, and made a statement from the Oval Office.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the 2 young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, Radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God. Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory, may God watch over his family, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
This is the most high-profile assassination of a civilian since Martin Luther King Jr.'s in 1968. The feeling in the United States right now is one of shock and disbelief. Politicians from both parties have condemned this act of political terrorism, but there have been far-left ghouls on social media expressing delight that Charlie Kirk is dead. The manhunt by the FBI and other federal, state, and local authorities will continue, and of course, we'll continue to bring you updates as they come to hand. Turning to the biggest story in Australian politics this week, Liberal leader Sussan Ley has sacked Jacinta Price from her shadow ministry. This all began when Jacinta Price, on September the 3rd, appeared on the ABC's afternoon briefing program hosted by Patricia Karvelas to defend the August 31 March for Australia rallies against mass migration. It was also National Flag Day, where earlier in the Senate, Jacinta Price and One Nation leader Pauline Hanson were ordered by the Senate President to remove Australian flags that they were draped in. This was after Greens lead Senator Nick McKim complained that they were props and demanded the same right to drape himself in the Palestinian flag. Price told Karvelas that our infrastructure and housing supply can't keep up with the current core number of immigrants coming into Australia. She then accused the Labor government of ensuring that they were bringing in migrants who would vote for them, and specifically named the Indian community. An hour after the interview aired, Price put out a statement saying that it was a mistake to suggest Australia had anything other than a non-discriminatory immigration policy. Australia has had a non-discriminatory immigration policy since 1973. Various Australian Indian individuals and community groups took offence at Price's comments. The next day, she was asked by the media whether she would apologise for her remarks.
Do you regret the comments you made to the ABC about Indian migrants? Have you apologised for them?
So, I don't believe I have anything to apologise about. In the context of discussing the marches that took place on the weekend, it was the ABC interviewer who pushed the issue, who brought up the issue of anti-Indian migration. What I was doing was highlighting the fact that there is huge concern for Labor's mass migration agenda, which is applying pressure to housing, to infrastructure, to services. And then I was further pursued on this line of talking. So what I did was point out the fact that, yes, Indian migrants are the second largest migrant group to this country and soon to be the largest migrant group to this country. A recent Redbridge poll told us that 85% of those who have Indian ancestry, and that's my children included, by the way, but 85% voted for Labor. I know those in my family that were of voting age didn't, but 85% did. So these were the facts that I was pointing out. And I was pointing out the fact that my concern is for Australian families in this country under so much pressure. And that's Australian families, whether from a migrant background, whether citizens, whether residents in this country. And so we should be concerned about mass migration in Australia with those sorts of pressures occurring in our country, and rightly so. It is up to the government to do something about this, and this is what we as the coalition would like to see a change in. So that's to state for the record, that is what the conversation was about.
It was on a live stream with Drew Pavlou, where Redbridge polling director and former Lanc Labor campaign operative Kos Samaras first said that 85% of Indian Australians voted for the Labor Party at the last federal election, which Price was quoting in that interview.
They are much bigger and more important electorally to Labor than, I would say, the Muslim community is. But yet, Labor's made this decision. So what I'm arguing here is that I don't think it is purely just electoral politics. Because if it was, there are things in their base, bits and pieces in their base, which are massive. 85% of the Indian diaspora voted for the Labor Party at the last election, or thereabouts. It varies across the country.
What was the number, sorry, Kos?
About 85%. In our polling, whenever we poll them, they're about that, two-party preferred. Huge numbers.
On September 5, Price did an interview with the editor of the Indian Australian news website, The Australia Today, followed by a statement on her own social media saying, "I deeply value Australia's Indian community. My words were never meant to disparage anyone, and I recognise the enormous contribution Indian Australians make as friends, colleagues, business owners, and community leaders. My concern has always been about the broader pressures of mass migration on housing, infrastructure, and families from all backgrounds, not any specific community. I will always stand alongside our Indian community and every community that makes Australia stronger." But the pressure on Jacinta Price to apologise intensified, led by her own Liberal colleagues. Sussan Ley said on ABC Insiders on Sunday that the comments Jacinta Price made about Indian migration were wrong and won't be repeated. Manager of government business, Alex Hawke, told Sky News Sunday Agenda that he had called Price to ask her to consider apologising. However, Price put out a statement later that day on social media saying that Alex Hawke did not have a conversation with her and, in fact, accused him of cowardly and inappropriate conduct. He instead called a staffer who Price accused Hawke of berating and said that if she did not comply with his request, she'd end up like another female member of the coalition. That is believed to be a reference to Jane Hume, who was sacked from the Shadow Ministry for her Chinese spies on Labor booths comments before the election. Hume has been in the media as well and said that Alex Hawke was acting as a henchman for Sussan Ley. That evening, Sussan Ley visited Sydney's Little India in Harris Park with her Shadow Immigration and Multicultural Affairs Minister Paul Scar and her Shadow Attorney General Julian Leeser. but some Indian businesses refused to host them, saying that they would not engage with the Liberal Party unless Price apologised for her remarks or was sacked from the shadow ministry. Julian Leeser apologised on her behalf during a speech at a Hindi language school in his Barawa electorate. Her former Nationals colleagues, Bridget McKenzie and Barnaby Joyce, said that she should apologise. Things came to a head yesterday when Jacinta Price was asked if she had confidence in Sussan Ley's leadership.
Do you have confidence in Sussan Ley's leadership? Do you have confidence in her leadership?
Look, again, those matters are for our party room.
Full confidence in her leadership?
Those matters are for our party room. My focus is to go forward and to ensure that we're doing the right thing by the Australian people, which is what we are elected to do.
Do you fully back her leadership?
That is what my concerns are about.
That evening, Sussan Ley sacked Jacinta Price as her Shadow Minister for Defence, Industry and Personnel.
Senator Jacinta Price has failed the test of high standard that I have set for members of my shadow ministry. Several days ago, Senator Nambucimpa Price made comments that were deeply hurtful to Indian Australians. The comments were wrong and should not have been made. And despite being given the time and space to apologise, Senator Jacinta Price did not offer an apology today. Today, Senator Jacinta Price critically failed to provide confidence in my leadership of the Liberal Party. Confidence in the leader is a requirement for serving in the shadow ministry. A couple of hours ago, I spoke to the Senator and I advised her of my decision.
There is another nationwide pro-Australia rally against government corruption this Saturday, the 13th of September at 12 p.m. The far left militants are also holding a nationwide rally against racism and Nazism at 11 a.m. Failed Victorian Socialist Senate candidate Jordan Vanderlam, aka Purple Pingers, posted earlier this week his intention for the Melbourne rally, which starts at Flinders Street Station, to march towards Parliament House, where the pro-Australia rally is, to, in his words, politically counter the far right. This is despite the organisers of the Australia Unites rally saying the National Socialist Network will not be welcome at their rally. The NSN leader Thomas Sewell is currently on remand after being charged with 25 offences related to the NSN's confrontation at the Aboriginal Camp Sovereignty at the King's Domain in Melbourne after the March for Australia. Victoria Police have declared the Melbourne CBD this Saturday once again a designated area so they can search for weapons and remove face coverings. It is unknown at this stage whether they will commit extra officers to the Melbourne CBD. As it stands currently, they still have 450 officers hunting for fugitive sovereign citizen Desi Friedman, who is accused of killing two of their officers, opening fire on them, killing them when they went to execute a search warrant against him for historical child sex matters. So Victoria Police revealed still images of the raid before the two officers were killed. Stay with us as we continue to cover all of these unfolding stories. I'm Tim Wilms, and that's Snapshot. Good night.